Well, let's take you to this now. Advocate Menzi Simelane enters the race for National Director of Public Prosecutions under a cloud of controversy. A seasoned legal mind with over 3 decades of experience, Simelane was appointed to the influential post by former President Jacob Zuma in December 2009 at the height of state capture involving the Gupta family and their associates. His tenure ended in October 2012 after the Constitutional Court upheld a challenge by the Democratic Alliance, ruling that Zuma had ignored concerns about Simelane's integrity and honesty. Now, at this second attempt, Simelane's candidacy has sparked fresh political tension. On Wednesday, DA lawyers threatened President Cyril Ramaphosa with court action over what they call Simelane's unconstitutional inclusion on the shortlist. The 55-year-old is the 6th and final candidate to appear before the advisory panel tasked with recommending the next NPA head. The successful candidate will take office in February 2026, following the end of Advocate Shamila Batoy's term next month. Simelane faces stiff competition from investigating Directorate Chief Advocate Andrea Johnson, former NPA heavyweight Advocate Hermoine Cronje, and 3 other contenders. Let's unpack this further now with Dr. Suhayfa Bhamjee, Senior Lecturer in Criminal Law at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Prof, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Perhaps to start with an important, however belated question, and one that I think sets the context for the rest of the conversation. This process is a nice-to-have process. The Constitution doesn't compel the President to have an advisory panel to appoint the head of the NPA. The President sort of wanted to have this process the second time around as a form of transparency, but it doesn't actually have to be there. The question we have to now ask, given that it's the second time we're witnessing this exact process, is has it helped the President make the right sort of choice?
That's the thing. At the end of the day, it is his choice. We're not certain about what will be the outcome or what will be come from that for him. But certainly, like you said, this is a nice to have, and we're glad that we're having it. You know, there's much to be said for what the public sees, what the public believes, and what is actually coming through on these interviews.
Yeah. So I asked that question to ask the follow-up question. This is about the interdict threat by the Democratic Alliance, right? They are trying to interdict a process that is a nice to have, not a process that's compelled by the Constitution in any way whatsoever. The President could still make any decision and appoint a person who was not even interviewed by this panel, because the President still has the constitutional and statutory prerogative to do so. The question then is, firstly, the interdict threat by the Democratic Alliance a step that helps the integrity of the process and or thwarts the integrity of the process?
Well, I think you're right. I think you're right when you say that even if the selection can go outside of what these shortlisted or what the interviewees are, the number 6, and also beyond the number 3s that get put through to the President. So I don't know that it thwarts the process as much as, look, we do have a principle of audi alteram partem. People must object where they want to object. I think from a political standpoint, I'm not a political expert, but I think history proves that the DA do object in where they can. And I think there's something to be said about coming forward or presenting yourself as the official objector or the official dissent, the opposition. Yeah. So it's interesting to see what will come out, whether they'll object regardless of the candidate that is eventually chosen, because this goes all the way back to how it came down to the 6 in the first place. So
can we double click on that? Let's double click on that, because their statement that they put out earlier was quite clear. They're going to interdict regardless of the outcome, not if the outcome is Menzi Simelane. And the rationale, therefore, is, as they argue, that look, the process is irrational because it had shortlisted an irrational candidate to be interviewed. The response by the panel, just chairpersoned by the minister, is that it's only an interview process. There's no actual decision being made on a candidate just yet. The DA says, look, that doesn't matter. The fact that this man was shortlisted, despite what the Constitutional Court said, means that the process itself is irrational and contaminated. Does that argument stand when we take a look at what the irrationality test is in our jurisprudence?
Yeah, so that's a great thing. That's a great thing, Oliver. The thing is, can we say it is only an interview? I mean, if we're talking about procedural fairness, due process in the grand scheme of things, isn't that where we're finding ourselves? Do the ends justify the means? Can we say it was only this or it is only that? So again, to play devil's advocate and pick on what the points that you're saying, it's sparking the things in my head. I don't know that we could say it is only, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we still have the process of irrationality tests and things like that. Sorry.
Yeah, look, and the panel was quite clear. We shortlisted candidates that met the minimum requirements, not the ideal requirements. And so the interview process is meant to separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. And so Menzi Simelane, on paper, does actually meet the minimum requirements that you must have some prosecutorial experience or extensive prosecutorial experience, must have a good understanding of the law, must understand the criminal justice system and its various organs that make it up, and be able to think about the organizational change and the organizational weaknesses around these things. On paper, one could say that he meets those requirements. Again, I just want to perhaps, and I don't want you to litigate here on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, but do they have a case?
Well, look, let me take you back. We're focusing on whether Menzi Simelane meets the minimum requirements. Let's not forget that one of the minimum requirements is that you must also be able to appear in any of the courts in South Africa. And one of the candidates today, it came across that the candidate doesn't even appear on the roll, is not a member of any of the professional organizations. As far as the attorney's role or the advocate's role. So let's then think about that question. I think we're focusing all of our energies, and rightly so, on Simelane, perhaps because he's the most dramatic person as far as a shock person making onto that list. But there are others that are presenting as problematic. So we must wonder, what exactly were the minimum criteria and were they followed?
Just the last one and a quick one. Why is this job so unenviable? 6 candidates, many of them, at least some of them, who we can poke holes into their credibility and or resume, as we've done now through the course of this conversation. We're a country of 62 million people. We've got many legal professionals in this country. Why is it so difficult to get the best of the best?
Look, I think there's a number of things like that. I think a lot of people who are worth their salt just don't have the stomach, perhaps, for the type of corruption and the type of kickback, or they're just their time, their efforts, their energies are spent somewhere else. There's a lot of questions around that. Salaries could be one. Political issues and not wanting to get into that. Look, it's a thankless job, I'd have to say. Public prosecutions, there's no fame and glory really in it. And certainly when you're at the National Director of Public Prosecutions, you're always in the spotlight, good or bad. And, they've been using the word poison chalice. I think it's very difficult not to have negative views come at you all the time. So I don't know quite how to answer that question, except to say that it is not an easy job. If it was an easy job, we would have had a lot more applicants.
Yeah. Dr. Bhamjee, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Dr. Suhayfa Bhamjee is a senior lecturer in criminal law at the University of KwaZulu-Natal.